The order was short, simple, and terrifying. Open your coat. For the young German women standing in the freezing yard of an old Allied prison camp, those 3 words felt like the moment everything would end. Some froze in place, others clutched their coats even tighter. One woman later said her knees and hands were shaking before she even fully understood what she was being told to do. They had survived bombings. They had survived retreat. They had avoided capture as long as they could. But this moment, this was the one they feared most. Stay until the end, because what this order really meant was something none of them could have imagined. Who were these women? In the final year of the war in Europe, thousands of German women were moving alongside collapsing military units. They were clerks, radio operators, nurses, assistants, drivers, and civilian support staff. Some had been assigned, some had volunteered, others were simply swept up in the chaos of retreat. Most of them were in their early 20s. As Allied forces advanced rapidly across Western Europe, many of these women were captured, either with exhausted soldiers or during mass surrenders. They had never been trained for captivity. They had no idea what to expect. And the thing they feared most wasn't hunger or the cold. It was humiliation. Fear that grew through rumors. Inside the camps, fear spread faster than facts. Quiet stories circulated at night. Stories about interrogations, about punishments, about what might happen if a guard called your name. Some of the rumors were exaggerated, some were completely made up, but for women who were exhausted, hungry, and scared, none of that mattered. So when one morning a mandatory inspection was announced, the knot of fear inside them tightened even more. They were told to line up, stand straight, wait for instructions. No explanation, no comfort. And that silence made everything worse. The women stood shoulder to shoulder in the cold, their coat buttons pulled tight, hands numb, their breath hanging in the air. An American officer walked slowly past the line with a medic beside him. Then the command came. Open your coat. It wasn't shouted, it wasn't angry, but to the women, it felt crushing. Some hesitated. Some looked around in panic. One woman later said, "This is it. This is when something bad starts," and no one wanted to be the first. What they thought would happen. Their expectations had been shaped by years of propaganda and fear. They had been warned what capture might mean, warned about the enemy. So they assumed this order was meant to intimidate them, or humiliate them, or worse. Some instinctively tried to close their coats again. A guard stepped forward, not threatening, just firm, and repeated the order, slower this time. What was really happening? What the women didn't know was this: the camp had a serious problem. Illness, malnutrition, lung infections, hidden wounds, frostbite, exhaustion. Medical staff had been ordered to perform a basic health screening. Opening their coats wasn't about control, it was about making sure they were okay. They were checking for extreme weight loss, untreated injuries, signs of illness, anyone needing urgent medical care. These women weren't being targeted, they were being protected. The realization. As the coat slowly opened, something unexpected happened. No one laughed. No one mocked them. No one touched them unnecessarily. The medic simply looked, took notes, and moved on. If he paused, it was only to quietly signal a nurse. One woman was given a blanket. Another was taken aside, not for punishment, but for treatment. Slowly, the tension faded. Fear turned into confusion, and then confusion turned into something even stranger. Relief. Afterward, in the barracks, back inside, the women whispered to each other, "Did you see? They were just checking us. They didn't do anything. For some of them, that moment shattered years of expectation. They had braced themselves for cruelty. Instead, they found procedure. Professional, maybe distant, but not cruel. One woman later wrote that this moment was the instant she realized the war I had been warned about was not the war I was actually living through. Why this story matters. This moment revealed something people rarely talk about. Fear doesn't need violence to exist. Uncertainty is enough. These women were not harmed by the order itself. They were harmed by what they thought it meant. And that misunderstanding tells us a lot about wartime psychology, about how deeply fear shapes perception. The human side of captivity. Allied camps were not perfect. There were shortages, there was tension, there were mistakes. But small, quiet moments like this show something important. Even in war, systems existed to protect life. Even enemies were sometimes treated as human beings. And sometimes, the most terrifying moments don't end in pain. They end in understanding. This is a true World War II story, inspired by documented reports, medical procedures, and survivor testimonies. Because sometimes in war, the most frightening moments aren't acts of cruelty. They're simply moments we don't yet understand. Do you agree? Tell us in the comments and subscribe for more true World War II stories.